With the opening of the Project Pride, we invite you to travel together with us through cities and countries of the world to meet Kazakhstan people there, learn more about their life. We will go on a visit, we will plunge into their work, we will walk to their favorite corners of the cities they live in. But the main thing is that we set out on a journey to be inspired by their success. After all, the heroes of our program are bright and interesting people, and every story, every acquaintance is a swirl of impressions. Just an hour journey from Amsterdam, and we're in Nijmegen, where we will meet someone very interesting. When I was preparing for the meeting with the granddaughter of Mukhtar Auezov, a woman with a beautiful name, Zifa-Alua, of course I looked forward to an interesting acquaintance and hurried to go to the Dutch province at the earliest opportunity. We arrived, waiting for you. Okay, thanks for meeting with us. However, how interesting the meeting will be was impossible to predict. The acquaintance was not just memorable. Without exaggeration, it was a gift of fate. Multifaceted personality, an outstanding scientist with so many stories to share, incredibly soulful. Zifa Muratovna is indeed a real citizen of the world in the best sense of the word. Hello, good morning. I'm so happy to meet you. The same here. This is Aziz. The name of Zifa is Arabic, and in translation it means dignified. And it should be noted, she is dignified in all respects. So welcome, Zifa Auezova. Zifa-Alua Auezova, she was born in Moscow. She is Kazakh, a granddaughter of the classic of Kazakh literature, Mukhtar Auezov. Her father, Murat Auezov, Orientalist, writer, ex-ambassador of Kazakhstan to China. She graduated from Almaty Secondary School, then the Faculty of Oriental Studies and Graduate School of Leningrad State University. She studied at Oxford University, where she received her PhD in the history of Arabic literature. Zifa Auezova taught at the Al-Farabi Kazakh National University, coordinated the educational and training programs of one of the American firms, directed the Information Center of the Soros Foundation, Kazakhstan. One of her most significant works is the redrafting of the 3-volume collection of Turkic dialects by Mahmoud Al-Kashgari. The husband of our heroine is a Dutch Arabist and Turkologist, Doctor of Science Robert Hermes. The couple has 3 children. Zifa Auezova speaks about 9 languages, among them is Arabic, Kazakh, Dutch, English, Russian, and other languages. She lives and works in the Netherlands. She teaches in several European universities and conducts active scientific work. An hour away from Nijmegen to Brochin, where Zifa leads quiet, measured, but at the same time very active life. After all, the work is scattered across several towns. She had time to tell us a lot about the local lifestyle, her relations with Europe in general, and the Netherlands in particular. Here people are very proud of the Asian history of their city. Various musical cultural events, festivals, literary readings are held here. In general, the Dutch position themselves as very modest, very wise. They say about themselves, "We're Dutch, we're a small country of frogs." They say Klein Kikkerland. This is literally means the country of frogs. Since there is a lot of rain, in principle, everywhere there are a lot of lakes, rivers and ponds, so historically it is considered to be a sea power. The Netherlands is a fairly multi-ethnic country and as a consequence, polylingual. Historically, ties were built and strengthened due to the wars and trade relations that had taken place. And therefore, for many people, it is absolutely normal to speak freely in several languages. And in what language do you speak at home? We speak Kazakh, Russian, and Dutch. These are the 3 main languages of communication. It goes in parallel. We quickly and without thinking switch to one or another language. English helped Zifa and her future husband understand each other at the first stage of their relationships. Arabic language gave refinement and beauty to their subsequent romantic correspondence, while later Zifa's husband Robert, as a Turkologist, decided to learn the Kazakh language. At first, we wrote to each other in Arabic and spoke in English. It did not last very long. We quickly decided that we should get married, and Robert, as a Turkologist, decided to immediately learn the Kazakh language.
Как турколог решил сразу же выучить казахский язык. Ему было так интересно, у него был азарт, как можно быстрее.
He was so interested and excited to use this knowledge.
Потом мы стали общаться только на казахском языке.
Then we began to speak only in Kazakh, and when the children were born, Robert, as a respectable linguist, said that it is not a good idea to expose children to more than 2 languages before they turn 3 years old.
Детям лучше не давать, иначе будет confusion, иначе.
Otherwise, it will create the confusion. It will be difficult for them to identify which language is their native language. And as a result, they will not express themselves well enough in general in all languages, and that they will not be able to have 2 native languages.
Одного или двух стабильных родных языков.
With her future husband, Zifa met in St. Petersburg. Robert also studied Arabic and Turkish languages, and besides, he was interested in Turkic languages of the people of the former Soviet Union. A year later, they got married, and the next 5 years they lived in Kazakhstan. Zifa Muratovna had an interesting work in the Educational Center of the Soros Foundation. Robert taught a course on the history of Arabic linguistics in Al-Farabi Kazakh National University in Kazakh language. Before his arrival to Kazakhstan, Robert was informed by the bride that the Kazakhs are supposed to know their ancestors up to 7th generation. Robert took this information very seriously and came to the grandfather of his bride with a large folder of archival documents about his European ancestors until the 8th generation. For him, it was probably not very easy but interesting getting to know a new culture. He immediately accepted that he's the son-in-law, and he tried very hard to speak with everyone in Kazakh language, and this gave a great impetus to his proficiency in Kazakh language. According to Robert himself, he's more fluent in Kazakh than in Russian, so naturally, we chose our language of communication. First, I learned the Turkish language. We started with the Turkish language. At that time, in the days of the Soviet Union, it was impossible to travel anywhere there. We went only to Turkey as Turkologists. Of course, we wanted to go to Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, or Kazakhstan, but it was not allowed. Then, in the 1988-1989, the Soviet Union opened its borders. Then we traveled and saw the country. That's how it started. That's how I learned Kazakh. I did not have much time, but I still tried.
В голландской провинции и слушать, как голландский ученый говорит по-казахски. Это удивительно.
What will a person leave after his death and what his contribution will be as the legacy cannot be predicted at his birth. And how to guess if what we are striving for, investing all of our strength and time, worth it or not? Probably only a sincere love for what you do, for what surrounds you, respect for people, cultures, the desire to create can fill the person's actions with meaning. Our today's hospitable hosts, it seems, do not care about rewards and recognition. Their deeds are determined by the love for their roots and for their homeland, mixed with respect for their ancestors.
Вот это вот свадебная фотография.
Here's a wedding picture of the grandmother and grandfather of the Ermers. Robert's last name is Ermers, and here a few Ermers are sitting. Here are my grandparents from my mother's side. In Karaganda, my grandfather, Matyan Rahimbekov, was a miner. He was the director of several mines in Karaganda. The Karaganda coal basin, and it was of a great importance for the Soviet economy. He was one of the first Kazakhstani mining engineers. And this is your mom, right? My grandmother is also here. She played a huge role in my upbringing. This is also my mother, Khurlan Rahimbekova, and my aunt, my mother's sister, Zifa Rahimbekova. Robert's maternal grandparents' photos. This is Linder's. These are his parents, foster parents, in fact. We generally moved to this area because Robert's ancestors, at least until the 7th generation, were from here. That is your motherland. Yes, my roots are directly from here. All those black and white photos of the past, the fuzzy images evoke in memory bright, full of sun memories. As in the old tarnished mirror, the images of close people appear as if they're alive. Zifa's parents were educated and progressive people. They studied in Moscow. Father, Murat Auezov, a well-known public figure, culturologist. Mom, a scientist, chemist, defended her thesis. My mother was a chemistry scientist who studied and defended her thesis in Moscow at the department of the famous academician Tananaeva. But besides that, she was a very talented singer. When she studied at the Moscow State University, she performed in large halls accompanied by ensembles, symphony orchestras. This is also very live, one of my favorite photos. Well, you followed in her footsteps. You're engaged in science and at the same time you're playing music. Zifa Muratovna plays music by her own definition in a very traditional genre. She plays the violin in a symphony orchestra and even tours together with the ensemble around European cities. Children also inherited musical talents from their parents and grandparents. For example, Janelle, the eldest daughter, who is working in the banking sector, sings in her free time in the opera, and besides opera arias, she's fond of Kazakh folklore. And this is my favorite photo of Mukhtar Auezov. It was taken in 1925 or 1926. I tried to enlarge it from a group photograph. It was included in the publication of the last year, in the edition of Leyden University. I wrote an article about Mukhtar Auezov dedicated to the story, or even a short novel, called Turbulent Years. Zifa Muratovna's article is another confirmation of the authenticity of the tragic events of the 1916, described by her great-grandfather Mukhtar Auezov in the novel Turbulent Years. People who inhabited the territory of the Russian Empire before and after the revolution of the 1917 suffered great human, economic, and geopolitical losses. In the Soviet Union, the book was banned, and Mukhtar Auezov was accused of nationalism. He was arrested, and in order to survive and save his loved ones, he was forced to write a confessional letter where he admitted his mistake. In 1970, the book was published, including in Russian language. And even in this photo, it is easy to notice the resemblance of the younger son of Robert and Zifa, Nazir, with his great-grandfather. This photo is also very beautiful. I also like it very much. My other grandmother from my father's side, Fatima Gabitova. In my opinion, this photograph was taken in the 1930s. A beautiful photograph. In my opinion, it was taken before all these tragedies related to the repressions in 1937-38. Here she was already a mother of 5 or 6 children. She was a teacher. She was a very educated woman for her time. She was fluent in Kazakh and Russian, in addition to her native Tatar language. And she supported the importance of the formation of the educational system in Kazakhstan. At the same time, she always wrote. She kept very interesting diaries, which became a reflection of this complex era. These are our roots. It is a kind of a family history. Shezhire. Yes, exactly. His family holidays turned out to be a real gift for the owners of the house, and the founders of this nice family, and for us, it was a great opportunity to find the whole family together. At the very end of the summer and the last days of vacation, children came to visit their parents in order to scatter again afterwards to the cities they live in, to their independent lives. Parents also go back to their usual rhythm. Zifa's office, where she works on articles and translations, prepares for lectures and holds working meetings with colleagues, is located right there in the annex to the house. It was equipped once with a daughter-in-law by the father-in-law in order for her to have a space where she can work in a calm and harmonious atmosphere and looking out at a great view of the garden.
Когда мне было 16 лет, я очень рано окончила среднюю школу. Из-за того, что рано пошла в школу.
At the age of 16, I was already sitting with a certificate of secondary education in my hands, thinking about going to the physics department of Moscow State University.
Поступить на физфак Московского государственного университета или куда-нибудь. То есть у меня были амбиции.
I had the ambition to study natural sciences and show that intellectually, girls can study mathematics and physics as well as boys.
Девчонки могут не хуже, чем мальчишки, тоже изучать математику и физику.
I cannot say that it was easy for me, but it was something that required discipline always, and for me it was like a challenge. New exercises in mathematics and in physics. In those years, it was strongly believed that to master any profession, it is necessary to work hard, and the process of mastering the craft should reflect the postulate of Suvorov that if it is difficult in teaching, it is easy in a battle. Engineers, physicists, chemists, technologists, designers were in favor. And philologists, linguists, well, what kind of fate students had after graduation, what they will become, teachers? Zifa's father, Murat Auezov, adhered to a different point of view, and her mother, as a wise woman, noticed that daughter easily learns other languages and advised her to do the same thing as the head of the family, her father.
Я поступила на Восточный факультет, и мне очень нравилась атмосфера Ленинградского университета, тем более...
So I entered the Faculty of Oriental Studies. It was always even aesthetically pleasant. It was very nice there.
Там было очень приятно, он был пропитан какой-то...
And it was always filled with wisdom and knowledge that this department is not for everyone.
Там они не для всякого открыты, не каждому были доступны...
Not everyone has access to these wonderful books, and not everyone can hear these wonderful lectures that we could listen to as students of the Oriental Studies. Then I somehow already started to realize how it all comes together and what I can do with all the knowledge I got. Arabic studies were the first specialty for me, and the interest in the Middle East in general. This is something that is foreign, but at the same time has a lot to do with history of the Kazakh people, with the history of Central Asia. I had a great pleasure and interest in studying all of it.
Мне было это очень приятно и интересно изучать.
After moving to the Netherlands, Zifa Muratovna began teaching at the University of Leiden. Allow us to share a little about the peculiarities of the economy of this country. The fact is that half of the budget of the Netherlands is tax revenue from private business, and this is not necessarily even an average business. Most often, these are small firms consisting of 1 or 2 people. The philosophy of life here is that people think it's right to do things that bring pleasure. In 2002, Zifa Muratovna registered her company, Eurasian Perspectives. She's engaged in research of Central Asia. She gives lectures and advises European colleagues. Interest to our region is shown mainly by employees of diplomatic institutions, as well as businessmen working in Kazakhstan. Zifa Muratovna's master students and teachers of our Al-Farabi Kazakh National University, colleagues Orientalists, come to listen to lectures on the intellectual baggage of Europe, the principles of academic writing, the history of humanitarian and social studies in the West. Leiden University for them is just a well of sources, relics, valuable manuscripts from the Ottoman Empire, in Arabic, Persian, and Turkish. There are even manuscripts of Al-Farabi, dated back to 15th century, which unfortunately we don't have in Kazakhstan. I now write the foreword to the British edition about Ilyas Jansugurov. Working with cooperation with the British interpreter Belinda Cook allows Zifa to help avoid inaccuracies in the translation, not to miss something important. After all, it's one thing just translation, the other working with a familiar material, whether it's a folk song, then a reference to other Kazakh classics or folklore. The help of such a specialist and a native speaker as our heroine is irreplaceable without exaggeration.
Если переводить буквально, то могут теряться какие-то,
If the material is translated literally, it can lose some historical context. In order not to lose it, they turn to more experienced translators.
к более опытным переводчикам.
Что скромничать?
Well, what about this modesty? I'm just a bit older, and I have a little more experience. I know a little more of some Kazakh songs. I know a little poetry. You're such an intercultural bridge. Well, like many researchers who are engaged in Central Asia.
Но я бы не ставила вас в один.
Well, I would not compare you to others. I would not put you on a par with other researchers because you, by virtue of your family roots, your connections, you are more integrated into all this. It seems to me that you're immersed in this. Well, yes, I honestly don't even consider it as work because, for me, it is some kind of a spiritual need. And this is a business that gives me great pleasure. I don't look at it as my business. I look at this as a kind of cultural project that brings me great joy.
Смотрю на это как на какой-нибудь культурный проект, который мне приносит большую радость.
Well, and the biggest work of the past for Zifa-Alua Auezova became diwan. Yes, sofa. This ancient Persian word is first encountered in the text of the 9th century, describing the caliphate of the caliphs of Omar, and means lists of the distribution of state revenues, as well as the location of the data. Let's just say archive. From the meaning of assembly state institution, the following meaning of the word diwan occurred: the room where a meeting takes place, and then the furniture standing in the meeting room. And there were in these premises long soft couches with cushions or sofas were standing. But let's turn to the work of Zifa-Alua Auezova. The Diwan is the Code of Turkic Dialects by Mahmud Al-Kashgari, a 3-volume dictionary which Zifa Muratovna painstakingly has been translating into Russian for 5 years.
Это труд, написанный, составленный в XI веке, и на сегодняшний день это такая самая...
This is a work written in the 11th century, and today it is the most voluminous and complete in a nation book that contains data on different dialects,
содержит в себе
Turkic dialects, and tells about the life of various Turkic tribes.
тюркских наречиях и рассказывает о жизни различных тюркских племен.
Western and Eastern Turkic tribes with the main focus on such units as Aguz and Kipchak. I became interested in this source because it is written in Arabic.
Чем мне стал интересен этот источник, он написан на арабском языке.
In the 11th century, there was such a feudal, theocratic state, Abbasid or Baghdad, Caliphate, in which any self-respecting Muslim should speak Arabic, and the territory of the Caliphate included the territories of modern Arab countries, part of Central Asia, Egypt, Iran, and North Africa. It was a language of cultural and intercultural communication, and in order to make the Turkic dialects known throughout the world, they said, well, meaning the Muslim world, it was necessary to write a treatise on the Turkic language in Arabic. And this is what Mahmud Al-Kashgari did. In this dictionary, there is even a map of Central Asia compiled by the author himself. Eminent Orientalists also translated it as much as it was possible to translate the map. Proverbs, sayings, stories, all this in the unique encyclopedia dictionary, and for a deeper understanding, they are accompanied by different legends, descriptions of children's games, rituals of those times. This work took in general about 5 years. This is already my finished work, translated into Russian. Robert, my husband, he played a great role in editing and in giving it a modern form. Each lexical token, each Turkic word was assigned a number so that a person who does not know the Arabic alphabet can also easily find these words in the Russian alphabet. And as a result, there is such an index. Here, all these words are written in the Russian letters. Kazakh language has a lot of Arabic words. Basically, this vocabulary is associated with religion, philosophy, education, with, as the heroine herself says, has to do with the mind, thinking, reasoning, cognition. For example, kalam, kitab, these are all Arabic words. Allah, the Almighty, raised the constellation of the Turks to the highest height. And in order to be successful, in order to be recognized, one must hold on to the Turks. one must learn their language, and one must learn to express themselves in their language. And with this practical note, he starts his dictionary. In fact, that the word brings joy to our new acquaintance, there is no doubt. She does what she loves and radiates gratitude to the world around her. The world seems to reciprocate. Dimensional, rural life of the Ermers to an uninformed person may seem ordinary, just like many of their neighbors. They plant flowers and vegetables in their small gardens, watch the fruits with awe, walk to the shore of the pond to admire the wild ducks and swans, and just stand looking at the sun. Immediately go out for a walk to get some fresh air, taking sun baths. It is a well-accepted thing here. If it is a small village, then everyone greets each other. When guests come, no one rushes to put big cauldrons with food, because everyone has food at home, and people are more interested in conversation with each other. A cup of coffee, a glass of juice, and a conversation. They don't give food much significance as we do. It's certainly different. Well, on the other hand, when Europeans come to us, it's a pleasant shock for them. Yes, for them it's a pleasant shock. But then they start to think, what should they do in this case? Living in the Netherlands, our heroes lead the Dutch lifestyle without standing out of the general mass of people, and in the open windows, without curtains, again, according to the local tradition, it's not always visible that they both tour with lectures and scientific reports around the world, write to leading scientific publications in different languages, and conduct social work, for example, helping immigrants. And since recently, Zifa also began to teach English for up-and-coming Dutch people who came to the country. And at the same time, she constantly learns herself new languages, new cultures, new facts of history. Robert for several years worked as an editor of a series of dictionaries in the publishing house Vandal, and then he opened his company and chose a direction of activity that could not be more urgent in the realities of the modern world: the cultural anthropology of immigrants from Arab countries to Europe. He conducts seminars for municipal, social services, and police, touching upon the problems of cultural adaptation of immigrants. Robert visited many countries of the Middle East and wrote several books on the subject.
Потому что у нас, у всех, у нас тоже есть какие-то представления, что иммигранты...
We all have some ideas what immigrants should do and what drawbacks other people have, and this is reformulated too into politics.
У других народов и вот это переформулируется тоже в политике.
And you know what politicians are doing.
Вы знаете, как это...
Because immigrants have not yet adapted, they don't have enough knowledge yet, and so they have a strange culture. And I'm also interested in this. It is interesting that the son of Zifa and Robert expresses interest in working with socially vulnerable groups of the population, although his views directed more towards adolescents who find themselves in difficult circumstances, while his father helps those whose customs and culture and problems are known to him since his student years. I don't care how they dress and what language they speak. It's their business. Only we as European people have to find a way together with immigrants. An immigrant arrived here 35 years ago from Turkey. His children are still Muslims, and since then their children are asking, why are you Muslim? Why are you speaking Russian, Turkish? Why? Why there are even such questions? I don't understand. It's not good. There are people like everyone. They're also our citizens. And why they ask such questions? You're doing a very big and important work. This is a drop To begin with a small thing is so familiar to each of us. The pitcher is filled gradually, drop by drop. If you're consistent and patient, you will succeed. No one can succeed overnight. Success comes to one who is willing to start small, work hard until his pitcher is full. Perhaps this is the moral of our meeting with these amazing citizens of the world, Zifa-Alua Auezova and Robert Ermers.